Hi, I'm Patty with Harris County Precinct 4. Welcome to another Encore excursion. Today we're at the historic Crighton Theater in Conroe for a step behind the curtains.
Well, hello and welcome to the historic Crighton Theater. I'm Carolyn Corsano Wong. I'm the artistic director of Stage Right of Texas. Stage Right is the resident theater company here at the historic Crighton Theater. And it is my pleasure to welcome you to this very special place, one that is known as the crown jewel of Montgomery County. So I want you now to take a step back in time with me. Let's go back to August of 1936. I'm all for going back to a time before crow's feet and cellulite were known, so let's do that. If we were to come to the Crighton Theater in August of 1936, we would arrive on what was then known as Chambers Street. That's what Main Street was back then. And it had just been paved by the mayor of the town, Harry M. Crighton. Harry M. Crighton was the man that built this theater. So Mr. Crighton worked as a pharmacist here in Conroe, but he was a very wise man. He invested in property. And in 1930s, the rest of the country was in depression, but here in Conroe, things were booming. In 1931, George Strait discovered oil in the Conroe oil fields, and Mr. Crighton owned property there. Very quickly, he became a very rich man. In 1931, Mr. Crighton sold his drugstore and began to invest in oil leases and buy more property here in Conroe. Like I said, he became a very rich man, but Mr. Crighton wanted to give something back to the town that had given him so much. He decided to build a theater. He wanted it to be the fanciest theater this side of the Mississippi. He hired architect Blum Hester to design the structure. It was to be an Italian garden. And that's why behind me you can see what would look like an Italian garden. There's a terracotta roof. There are Juliet balconies. There are frescoes on the wall, bas relief, intricate in design. There are large urns that perhaps should hold olive oil or wine maybe. So coming to the Crighton in the 30s was a real treat. If you walk through the doors of August in 1936, that was the first year that the theater was opened. The theater opened in November 26th of 1935. So August would be the first summer that the people of Conroe got to enjoy what was then known as electrified, refrigerated air. The Crighton Theater had the first air-conditioned building in the area. And I can imagine to people coming off a hot, dusty street into the refreshing, cool air of this facility. They would walk up to a round ticket booth that was out front, no longer there. They would pay their 25 cents if you were an adult, or 15 cents if you were a kid. For that, you would see a cartoon, might be Donald Duck or Mickey Mouse. You would see news of the day, and you would see a feature presentation. Back in 1936, if we walked through the doors, we might be seeing Clark Gable and Jeanette MacDonald in the movie San Francisco, or perhaps William Powell and Myrna Loy in The Great Ziegfeld. Whatever it was, we knew we were in for a treat. While waiting for the feature presentation to start, many an old Conroeite has told me they would sit back in their seat, look up, and see what crowned the Crighton Theater. It was a beautiful blue sky with white clouds and twinkling lights that were controlled by the projectionist at the rear of the theater. I cannot imagine the beauty that surrounded people at the time when they came to the Crighton Theater. The movie would start and off you would go. The Crighton Theater was originally a movie house from 1935 to 1967. Mr. Crighton built the theater to house both movies and vaudeville. Vaudeville was a popular entertainment in the 20s and early 30s. It was variety shows, it was comics, it was singers, it was jugglers, it was comedians. And unfortunately, vaudeville never played the Crighton Theater when Mr. Crighton was alive. But the theater was the town's movie house and continued to be that until 1967. By then, Mr. Crighton had passed away. His family had moved away to San Antonio, and the old theater was viewed as from those in the town as being kind of run down and the dingy little theater. Bigger movie houses were opening up and drive-ins, and people just didn't come anymore to the Crighton Theater. Not only that, Hallie Crighton, who was Mr. Crighton's daughter, wasn't too happy with the quality of movies that were being shown in the late 60s. You recall things got a little racy on screen back then, and she didn't want movies like that being shown in a theater bearing the Crighton name. So she closed the theater in 1967. The Crighton Theater sat empty. Sadly, the wall, the beautiful ceiling, the blue sky fell to the floor due to a leak in the roof. Rats, snakes, vagrants made their home in the Crighton Theater. And it was in 1976 that area leaders here in Conroe got the idea that maybe they could refurbish the old theater to be the home of the Little Theater of Conroe, which was the first performing arts company here in the city. They approached Hallie Crighton Guthrie, who was her name at the time, and asked, could she donate the Crighton Theater to the city? Hallie Crighton decided that she would donate the Crighton Theater in her father's name with the following stipulations: that it be run by a nonprofit foundation to receive the gift, that it only have nonprofit performing arts companies perform here, and that it always bear the Crighton name. So in 1977, Hallie Crighton sold this theater for $10 to the Montgomery County Performing Arts Foundation. They accepted the gift, and then they went to work on raising money to restore the grand old theater. And you thought your closet was busy, This is just some of our costumes here at Stage Right. We've actually moved them all out of storage because they're currently putting in a sprinkler system, so we don't normally always have all of our costumes out. Seeing all these costumes makes me remember some of the many roles I've gotten to play. I can look at some of these racks and see, oh yes, there's Dolly Levi. Oh, there is the gal from Wild Women of Winedale. A lot of people have asked me how I got started in acting. Well, believe it or not, like many actors, I was a shy kid. I was a shy little girl, and an art teacher said that I should try out for a play that the class was putting on. They were doing Greek myths, Greek mythology. So I tried out and I got a part in the play. I was Pandora, and Pandora had to open the box, and react to the horrible things that were coming out of the box. And on one afternoon, the whole school came. I was in 6th grade, and they all came, and it came time for me to do Pandora, and I wasn't afraid to be up on the stage. I was acting Pandora. And after the play was over, my art teacher said to me, Carolyn, you did a really good job. When you go to 7th grade, they have an acting club. You should join it. So with that encouragement, I did, and I've been acting ever since. Some of my favorite performers and those that I have been inspired by were funny ladies. Lucille Ball, Carol Burnett, Irma Bombeck, obviously, as a writer. Carol Lombard was one of my favorites to watch. She was so beautiful and yet so funny. And she could be both a beautiful woman and yet funny. And I really admired that. So, one of my favorite roles was playing Dolly Levi in Stage Right's production of Hello, Dolly. Dolly was so fun to play. One of the greatest parts about playing Dolly was wearing all the beautiful clothes that Dolly had to wear. This was one that I got to wear for the number Before the Parade Passes By. And our extraordinary costumer, Debbie Preisler, crafted this. Can you guess what this was? It was a chenille bedspread that Debbie just loved the look of, loved the fringe. So she took a dress, this purple dress here underneath all of this. She crafted the cutouts of the chenille bedspread, gave me a little bit of a bustle, and then she liked the texture from another dress, so she cut that out and sewed it all together, and voila, Dolly had her dress. I want to show you something special, a little artifact. Do you ever wonder what was above the suspended ceiling here? Well, when the theater was built, it was the beautiful blue sky, but sadly that fell down and a suspended ceiling was put in its place. But some of the beautiful blue sky still remains up above the suspended ceiling. And I've got a piece of the sky to show you. Don't tell anyone, but when I went up to the catwalk one day, I saw large pieces of the sky still there on the rebar above the suspended ceiling. And I looked down behind the Juliet balconies, and sadly, there was a lot of the broken sky down there. So without anybody looking, I reached down and grabbed a piece of blue sky. And you can see the beautiful blue color that was there. The piece that is still remaining up above the stage is even more vibrant than this piece here. It must have been stunning. Well, now, let's take you behind the scenes so you can see how the magic happens. We're standing here on the stage of the Crighton Theater. And it's quite a view to the 541 seats from standing right here. It's a view I happen to love. But what you don't see when you're sitting in those seats is everything that has to happen backstage. So back here, you'll see that we have runoff space, which is what it's called, on stage right. That's this side, and this is stage left. So they always say things as you're speaking to an actor, because actors aren't too bright up here. So this way is stage right, this way is stage left, even though it's opposite to the people looking at the show. So off on stage right, there's runoff space, and there's a ramp that goes down, and the building next door, the Hicks building, is where we house all of the scenery and the props and all of that during a show. So say you came to see Thoroughly Modern Millie, and you saw people bringing on big laundry carts. They would be stored back there, and when it came time, an army of fast-moving stage crew would roll them back onto the stage and then roll them off. Mr. Crighton constructed the Crighton Theater with the intent of having both movies shown here and vaudeville shows. Now, unfortunately, vaudeville was dying out and vaudeville didn't come here until Stage Right put on a vaudeville show. But the theater was built for live performance. And to make live performance possible, to make scenes go very quickly, fly space is what is needed. So up above me on the stage is 48 feet of fly space. So when we need to bring, say we want to create a mood of a starlit night, we can bring down a beautiful drop, a painted drop with that on it very quickly from the 24-foot across bars that hang above the stage. There are 15 bars. We have 15 bars to play with to drop, to raise and lower scenery. And it's done by this cage over here. You can see we've got the bars labeled, and when it comes time, the person manning the ropes is on a headset. The stage manager says, drop line 6. Okay, so they take the brake off of the rope, they hold on to the rope, they bring it down. It's marked on the rope where to stop. When it comes time for the scene to change, the stage manager will call the cue to the ropeman, say, raise bar 6. And then bar 6 goes back up again. And that's how we change the scenery. So here we are in what will be the expanded lobby of the Crighton Theater. This big hole was the wall of the Crighton Theater, and you can see how well constructed the theater was. So on the other side of this plywood here is the lobby. It will be expanded into this area. There'll be a concession stand across the way on the other side of the wall. There'll be glass doors and glass display cases in the front of the fascia of the building. And what people are most excited about who come to the Crighton Theater is bathrooms downstairs. There will be a big bank of bathrooms at the end of this room, ladies and men's room. Lots of bathrooms. There will also be this opening over here is where the stairs will be. So if you're familiar with the Crighton, there are stairs up to the mezzanine, and over here will be a back way to get to this side of the lobby. So you can either go up the stairs from the main lobby, you can go up to the mezzanine and the balcony, or you can come back down these stairs that will be here to use the bathrooms downstairs or to get to the concession stand. In the back of the bathrooms, with access from the back end, there will be a little scene shop area, so the people that put on shows here have a little bit of space to prepare scenery.
Thank you for joining us on another Encore excursion. We look forward to seeing you again on our next exciting trip.